Can you talk about the overall level of enthusiasm over the USA track and field team?
The level of enthusiasm is unbelievable. And the evidence of that is what we saw at the track and field Olympic trials in Oregon, Eugene, which is really the most difficult track and field meet for these American athletes on the planet. It's harder to make the team than it will be to compete here at the games, if you can imagine that.
A lot of excitement about Sha'Carri Richardson. She's technically never been in the Olympics.
It has been really special, I think, to watch Sha'Carri Richardson grow up in front of us from the difficulties from the Tokyo trials and not being able to go to the games to then becoming world champion in Budapest last year. I think that was the moment where she crossed the line, where she realized that she belonged. And now she comes here as one of the favorites.
400-meter hurdles, what do you expect?
Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is just unreal. She closed out our Olympic trials with a world record in the 400 hurdles, and it was an incredible race, as we expected. But here on this track, she'll be facing her typical nemesis, Femke Bol from the Netherlands, and I believe it'll take a world record to win the gold medal in that final should they both line up there. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone has come to Paris to make history again.
How competitive are we looking in the men's hurdles?
The men's hurdles are just, again, another incredible race. Just imagine that you wait 4 years to have 3 perfect rounds that are 13 seconds or less. Grant Holloway is leading the way for the United States in that area. His focus in this short race, this short burst of energy and speed to try and grab the gold here in Paris. And if he can get that done, he will solidify himself as one of the best ever.
You and I were talking earlier about a young face we're going to see here on the American team who could do some big things in the future.
Quincy Wilson, 16 years of age, the youngest male ever to make the U.S. track and field Olympic team, is here. He had a shocking performance at the trials, and so he comes here and he'll be an alternate on one of the relays. But if he gets on the track, I believe he's going to light it up. And I believe that Quincy Wilson will be in 4 years probably the face of USA track and field and one of the major faces of the Olympic Games going to the LA 28 Games. It's going to be unbelievable.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.